There we go. Arjav had a question. She or he, I'm not sure, said, where do we have to post our points for the criteria of judging cities? That's in Unit 2. So I'll review that forum at the end of this meeting. But we'll be posting up with a criteria that each student finds important, and then kind of looking around at what other people are posting and trying to find some commonalities or perhaps complementary. Should you have the same interests, or should you have complementary interests, kind of a yin and a yang, where you take these 3 criteria and another student takes another 3? Or perhaps you'd like to focus on just a couple, 2 or 3, or I don't know, 6. Some people have 12. I think Urja had 12 in her recording where she reviewed her SimCity Trinity. Urja, I posted that recording by you, that
Yes,
video you made.
I saw it.
Good. And you used 12 criteria, which is ambitious, but comprehensive. What do you guys think about, should we have a morning meeting? Another vote was just to record it and make the recording available. How many people would like to have, say, a Sunday morning meeting? Anybody?
Yeah, I would prefer a Sunday morning meeting.
Okay.
Actually, I have
Even
class
I'll prefer that
from 10
in the
o'clock,
morning.
so I usually wake up morning, so I am comfortable with it. At night, it usually becomes so tired that we are not able to join.
I hear you. The issue for me would be that if it's 9 o'clock in the morning for you, I think it's 10:30 at night for me. So I get tired.
Yeah, that is what the problem
How
is.
about 8 o'clock in the morning? Would that be possible for you guys?
Yes, that's fine for me.
Yes. Don't know about others, but yeah, it's fine for me too.
I believe
Okay.
that there is some, like many people said that they have Ramzan at their place, so they won't be able to join by 7 in the afternoon for a month in the evening.
Yes. Yes, I've
So
gotten a couple of messages from students because of Ramadan.
yes, and they do have some prayer also after the break, after the fast break. So probably they won't be able to join
So
by
Sunday
that.
morning would be better?
Yeah, one thing can be done that Saturday evening and Sunday morning. This can be an
Okay.
alternate. Those
Yeah,
who
that's
wanna-
what I was just discussing with Advit. Advit, are you there? I don't know, he's on Discord. All right, well, let's try out sharing the desktop. See how that goes. Well, I should also open up another screen here so I can see your view.
So, will this meeting be shared with us?
Yes, you mean the recording?
We'll get it on the platform itself, or it will be emailed to everyone?
Well, if I put it in an announcement, it will come out in an email to everybody individually. Is that what you want?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sure, I could do that. Well, it's a little unstable, we'll see. All right, you should be able to see the screen now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. All right, so a couple of things I wanted to look at. I've kind of renamed a couple of the forums here. New students, introduce yourself, which there's a lot of good conversations there. And then I also broke out the one for interested in becoming a mentor for returning students. And there's an example where I'm asking people to start talking about their criteria. And I saw a couple of introductions here I wanted to point out. Here's one from Tasmia Hayder, and she lives in Noida. She's an extreme perfectionist. She's interested in nature and biodiversity. And it doesn't have to be a single topic. You can obviously go out to more. And she's talking about how if loss of species, for example, the issue around mosquitoes, should we kill the mosquitoes that cause malaria, or will that upset the ecological balance? Rise in global temperatures, increase in sea level. And I wanted to point out, let me see if I can make that font a little bit better. How's that? Is that easier for you guys to see?
Yes.
Okay, good. So she was talking about the end of humanity. And I know that there's a lot of people in the press, that talk about the end of humanity. But I wanted to point out that sea levels used to be lower. And then when we came out of the last glacial period, the sea levels started rising. And for example, who has heard of Sumeria, the Sumerian civilization? Are you guys aware of that? You could type it in chat or say. I'm looking for my chat window. Where did it go? Huh. Where is my chat? Here we go. Okay, well, the Sumerian civilization predated the Egyptians. So before the Egyptians was the Akkadian civilization, and before that was the Sumerian civilization. And it's the first civilization that developed writing. And the reason I'm bringing them up is because it wouldn't exist if the sea level hadn't risen and driven all the people from the area that's now the Persian Gulf up into Mesopotamia. So suddenly there was all these people crowded together and they had to move. Apparently the sea was rising and the shoreline would actually move in about a meter every day. If you can imagine that, you set up camp and suddenly a month later, the sea level is lapping at the door of your camp. So change in sea level requires adaptation. And another examples are that many different civilizations throughout time have collapsed. But it's not the end of humanity, it's just that people have to move away because of drought or because of the inability to produce food, which is often related to drought. Um, Obviously, floods and hurricanes and cyclones have an impact, and dealing with temperature is going to be a challenge. But I didn't want it to be all about doom. In the short term, we're looking at adapting, moving, changing, looking at technologies that'll help us adapt, but it doesn't have to spell the end of humanity. I mean, obviously we don't want to tip the Earth into a climate that ends up like Mars, where everything is completely dry. Oh, another one that I wanted to contribute was, how they talk about the CO2 levels have hit 400. It was the first time we've seen the CO2 levels come up over 400 parts per million. Well, during the time of the dinosaurs, the CO2 levels were over 1,000 parts per million CO2, and it actually helps the plants grow. So, trade-offs. If we want a lot of good crops, high CO2 levels actually help. We just have to manage the temperature so it doesn't get too extreme. But places like Siberia and Canada, Greenland, Alaska will actually benefit from a warming Earth. So I wanted to point that out, that it's also about adapting to new circumstances. Does anybody have any questions about that? Anybody want to bring up counterpoints? Okay. Well, anyway, she's focused on nature and biodiversity in her post. So that was Tasmia. And then she got a reply here from Alicia Kayono, who is from Semarang in Indonesia. And she talks about her hobbies, but she's also studying biodiversity. So this is an early attempt by a student to kind of link up with someone with similar interests. And that's really the point of Unit 2, is we start to look at people who have similar or complementary interests and try to link up. So she's starting here in the Introduce Yourself forum, and she puts up a really nice compilation of pictures here, kind of the face of biodiversity. So I thought that was a really good effort at reaching out to someone and kind of making new friends across distance from Indonesia to Noida, Semarang to Noida. Am I saying Noida right?
No, it's actually Noida.
Noida, Noida.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Thank you. I'll practice. I feel annoyed by a Noida. That's how I'll remember. All right, so Alice, good job reaching out. I don't know if she's here for this meeting, but that's the kind of post that'll help make contact with new people and link up across similar interests. And the idea of adapting as opposed to just dying out. That's the point I wanted to make from those posts. There's a lot of good posts coming in the Introduce Yourself forum, but I wanted to point that one out. Okay, well, moving on. So we're wrapping up Unit 1 and moving into Unit 2. Just scroll down here rapidly. So there's the 3 key objectives, and then 8 about sustainable urban planning, and number 9, cooperating on a global approach. And here under progress, breakthroughs, and new ideas, there was some good activity in objective 3. I wanted to point that out. So lots of good contributions. You guys are doing a really good job. I think you're probably the best cycle I've seen as far as proposing interesting innovations, technologies, solutions, ways to mitigate the problems. Here's from Navia, little new ways to consume water and food, the edible spoon, shampoo pods, edible water blobs. Here's a post by Urja, focusing on objective 3 about the green hospital in Shanghai. So focusing on physical activity and kind of de-stressing people, and a really nice picture there of the green hospital in Singapore. So I don't know if it's been built yet. Urja, has it been built yet?
Yes, it is in making.
It's already in operation?
Yes, it's in operation.
Very good. Well, it's a lovely photograph, and I think we need more buildings like that, green buildings, lots of plant life. The idea of de-stressing our environment, reducing noise pollution, air pollution. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. And another focus here by Vikazni on water pollution, noise pollution. Some good charts.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I have a question regarding those types of building, particularly working forest. So it would obviously be surrounded by a lot of trees, etc. So how would be able to control the pests then?
The pests?
The pests.
Like bugs?
Insects.
Yes.
Yeah, bugs.
I agree. When people talk about growing a lot of plants inside your house, my experience is that when you have a lot of plants, you end up with those little flies that kind of hover around. Urja, do you have any response for her on how to control pests without creating a pesticide poison issue? Anybody have any responses?
We can use natural pesticides and herbicides for that.
Such as?
Neem.
Okay.
Even basil can be grown.
Go ahead. Is it Sia?
Yes, it's me here. I too have a lot of plants at my place. I have around 100 or 150 plants
Wow.
at my place. So my father's a lot of engrossed in it, and he loves gardening and everything. So
Uh-huh.
he's kept a lot of plants here. So we have basil here, and I think they kill the mosquitoes for malaria.
Yes. So what does he use to control pests?
The control can be that we can grow some basil plants near by the green hospital, so that the pest can be controlled as a natural way.
So pests are repelled by the basil plant?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Does anybody want to type into chat their ideas? Sometimes it's hard to give everybody a chance to speak. But if you want to put some ideas into chat, that's a way we could all kind of look back. Someone said Ning, I think it was, for a pesticide.
Yes, neem can be used, and some techniques can also be used, like crop rotation, like whatever we study these days, like organic farming. Like on this big area, if farming is done, like in this hospital, it is being implemented. So of course there would be problem of pests. So a number of techniques can be used. Like one pointed out, neem leaves are used here at India. They can be used to control pest a daily
Okay,
basis, and some kind of crop rotation as well,
crop
multiple farming.
rotation. Okay,
Yeah,
very good. Urja, can you find a link to this information about Ning or Neem? I'm not sure what you're saying, and put it in the
yeah,
chat.
sure.
Yeah, just drop a link into chat so we can all check that out. And a
Yes, sure. Oh,
very good question. Obviously, it's an issue that would come up right away when you try to deal with lots of plants, especially 100 or 150 in your house. See, that's amazing. I'm sure that must make the interior of your house very peaceful and probably more quiet, right? So cleaner air and reducing noise, the echoing. So here's a post from Tasmia talking about non-toxic environment. And Shuria coli. Urja, is Shuria related to you?
Yeah, he's my cousin brother, but not.
Oh, very good. Another coli to contribute. Well,
Yes.
it's good to see. So we're talking about indoor pollution, and Shuri is posting about the household combustion of fuels and how that causes high concentrations of air pollutants indoor. So it's an ongoing issue with how do you heat the house and how do you cook your food without polluting your air, polluting your environment. Smoke, for example, is a common issue inside of houses that burn things. Traffic noise, air traffic, which has been greatly reduced, obviously, by the problem with coronavirus, COVID. There's a lot less airplanes flying overhead. And construction sites can be very noisy. I operated a pneumatic drill when I was 18 for 2 weeks. I used it 8 hours a day. Not only did I get tremendous blisters in my hand, but I had to wear hearing protection because it was so loud. So planting trees and bushes, nice little kind of a, I don't know, ecological justice idea here with that graphic. And hairspray, CFC gas for air pollution. So lots of good discussions here. Origami noise cancellation, that's an interesting idea. A noise barrier that drops it by 90%. Different angles. The Miura origami fold. This is a pretty new post here. It must have just come up very recently. Acoustic shielding properties of the entire barrier. Let's take a quick look. Oh, and I should tick on that for
University of Michigan to develop a reconfigurable origami sound barrier. to block specific sound frequencies based on how fast traffic is moving.
Can you
There
guys
are
hear it now?
existing structures which can block the traffic noise. These kind of barriers are
Good.
tuned to block all frequencies at all times.
Conclusions, and also the pattern or the configuration, the lattice configuration, and their so-called full band gap.
100 hertz, and the non-rush hour
Well, there
direction,
you
but it
go.
also lifts in the z direction. So that would allow us to transform from a hexagon to a square. And obviously when you want
as very small devices.
The researchers believe these origami traffic
All right.
sound barriers could be designed to change configuration at set times throughout the day.
Cool. Well, engineering applied for reducing noise pollution. So managing road noise, I imagine, and construction noise. So very interesting contribution there. Okay, so generally we're trying to keep those posts inside these 3 categories just to keep it tidy and organized, but that's okay. Alicia has a post here about achieving EAP goals by reducing noise pollution. Looks like a focus here on the pneumatic drill, cars, and planes, and how it stresses people out. So that's a good graphic to illustrate that idea. Okay, so that was one of the key things we've been working on in Unit 1. Let's take a quick look and see how the quiz is going. So we've had 84 attempts. And down here, yeah, pretty good. Got a couple of people who haven't finished it completely. You just have to keep trying until you get at least a 6 out of 8. But it looks like 41 people are there, 8 there. So good job. Just a review quiz, and you have unlimited tries, so no stress, no worries. Just kind of a knowledge check to help you kind of cement your learning about the 3 objectives. Well, the 5 total. Okay, so any questions about this forum?
So from where do we have to attempt the quiz? Because I've not got any mail regarding it.
Well, I opened it up about a week or 2 ago when I sent out an announcement, and you can take it anytime. It is a requirement, so you'll see things that have this little tick mark next to it, like this right here. And when you've completed it, when you've completed enough posts on the forum, you'll see a tick here for completion of task. So not completed. And this one I haven't completed. So you can just look down your work, and occasionally I'll forget, like here, these will just take a quick look. You just want to open these pages and then just complete it. But sometimes I'll put up a label or something, and it'll put a confirmation link next to it. Don't worry about that. I'll take care of that. I'll clean it up. But things like this, the quiz, you definitely want to complete that to a grade of 6. And if you look at the forum very quickly here, you'll see each student should post at least 3 replies to complete this activity. Okay, so it'll generally say something like that, or it'll say this is an optional activity. I think for the SDG forum, I put that. But I'm not strict on due dates, that kind of thing. It's just as we progress along, just try to get it done. That kind of reduces the stress if you don't have strict due dates. And I think everybody would like kind of a relaxed schedule. You guys have enough due dates in your schoolwork, I'm sure. All right, so any questions about Unit 1? Well, let's get started on Unit 2 then. So you can see that Unit 2 has this blue background, and that kind of indicates the focus. This is the current focus. Now, hopefully we won't get cut off at 40 minutes. Generally, Zoom has been waiving that limit. Okay, so it's got a blue background, which shows that it's the current unit. And try to give links when you show pictures like this. I show a link back to this architecture firm. So how do we judge the sustainability of a city? Yeah, see, I need to take off that requirement there on that label. So students should review the criteria that previous awards have used to judge the environmental performance of cities in Asia and the EU. Then use the forum to propose which criteria should be applied to judge green urban environments in this GRUEN project. So which ones do you think are important? So if we look at the Green Leaf Award, there's 6: climate change and energy performance, sustainable urban mobility, nature, biodiversity, and sustainable land use, air quality and noise, waste and circular economy, and water. And then each topic area, for this award, they asked the cities that were applying to consider 2 issues: the current situation and strategic approach, and how about citizen participation and public awareness? Because, I mean, you can have great ideas, but if nobody gets involved, nobody engages and participates, then it won't go anywhere. And you need to make the public aware. So that's why you see posters and announcements in a city. So that's the Green Leaf Award. And then the Green Capital Award here. A little more complex. It has 12 environmental indicators. And you'll see it differentiates between climate change mitigation, where you try to kind of correct the problem, slow things down, slow the change down, or reduce or reverse even the effects of change, versus climate change adaptation. How do we adapt to the new situation to continue whatever it is we're trying to do, civilization, basically, or growing crops. So you might see new hybrid crops there. Sustainable urban mobility, sustainable urban land use, nature and biodiversity, air quality, noise, waste, water, green growth and eco-innovation, energy performance, and governance. Now this is kind of an under-examined issue. Everybody's aware of pollution, but we often don't talk about the role of governance. So how does the government encourage the citizens to participate? So you'll see drives for things, subsidies to, for example, reward people for buying electric cars. You can give a big subsidy for that. I think Hong Kong did for a long time, and Teslas. Everybody was buying a Tesla in Hong Kong because the government was giving a big break on the registration. I think Norway is also doing something very similar. And then the different, for each indicator, they asked you to look at the present situation, the measures implemented recently, short and long-term objectives for the future, and an approach to achieve these, and then how can it be documented? And obviously we'd like to see links back to your resources. So there's the 12. Urja, are those the 12 that you used when you looked at Trinity?
Yes, somewhat, but in our group we made 2-3 extra as well. For example, eco-innovation and something like that.
Okay, good. Well, I mean, you don't have to stick to a given list. You can, adapt it to serve your purposes or whatever focus you want to have in your presentation. So after you've looked at these, the Asian Green City Index is more complex, but it kind of gives you something to look at as to how those Asian cities were being evaluated. And then the forum is where you propose your criteria. So look at the different criteria, and then each student should add a new discussion topic. And then I suggested on the subject line, you put your city and school name. That'll help identify where other students live, what school they go to. It's certainly easier to work together, especially if you want to physically go to a location, if you live in the same city, but it doesn't have to be. Urja was asking about if students are allowed to link up as a pair for Unit 3, the next unit, even if they live in different countries or cities. And sure, if they want to, it adds a new element of challenge. But perhaps you could compare your cities, my city's good at this, your city's good at that. How did they get there? That kind of thing. And then in the body of the post, propose the criteria that you think should be used to judge a green city, Which ones do you appreciate for helping a city feel green? And what are the issues in cities that make urban development unsustainable? So those are things you might want to examine around how you choose those criteria. And I want you to justify your choices. For each item on your list, include a sentence or two about why you think this item should be a criteria for judging a GRUEN. Close the door, please, Hunter. Hunter, close the door. Hunter, thank you. Okay. So yeah, please justify. It doesn't have to be a lot, just a sentence or two about why you think this item should be a criteria for judging a GRUEN. And then look around at what other people have posted. Give them feedback. Post them a question, make a comment, and if someone posts to you, respond to it. The same thing we've been doing with Introduce Yourself, other forums. Let's try to make it interactive. We're trying to develop a conversation, encourage young people to join a conversation and get engaged with issues. And a large part of that is just having a conversation with people who agree with you or disagree with you. Obviously keep it civil, right? We're not going to have personal attacks. But the idea is to give feedback and start a conversation. And the fifth point here is if you see someone with a post from your city or wherever, perhaps even a school, look at their list and their justifications. And if you feel your lists are similar enough, you might propose pairing with them for Unit 3 when you evaluate your city. So here we're developing the criteria in Unit 2, and then in Unit 3, we'll actually apply it to the city that we're examining, probably your city, and then what's it good at and what could it be improved at? So what areas, what issues it could be improved. And you might need to do some research online. You might need to go out to different sites and take a look. Obviously that could be an issue in the days when travel is reduced, but you can do a lot of research online. Investigative journalism is kind of at the heart of this issue, where people try to find out what's going on. And there's so much information on the internet. Good, we've got a couple of posts pretty recently here. So Suvia Malik and Taran. Taran's been doing a great job leading the way. So he talks about a green city concept. How do we help cities become more sustainable? Maybe I should make that font a little bigger. More livable. The 3 pillars of sustainability theory. So he's talking about health, greenery, resilience, and equity. Green city concept. So he's basing it on an existing framework as a conceptual framework for a green city and using it to develop a method to measure a city's green performance. Energy efficiency. For example, LED lighting can make a big difference in electricity consumption. And a really nice picture here kind of captures his proposal for a green urban environment. So he's talking about a framework and the pillars, but I don't see a specific list. Taran, are you here? Are you in this meeting?